Hi everyone. So today I'm going to be I'm writing a video on rational equations, and I'm going to look at a word problem involving distance equals rate times time. So this specific problem came from a McDougal Littel Algebra Book 2, Chapter 5. And it involves rational equations. So I want to remind you that a rational equation is any equation that involves a fraction that has a variable in the denominator, or a variable in the top as well. It could be considered rational. But so we're going to look at an example involving distance equals rate times time. So here goes. An elevator went from the bottom to the top of a tower at an average speed of 4 meters a second. It remained at the top for 90 seconds and then returned to the bottom at 5 meters a second. Okay, so I like to use charts with d equals r times t. So I've got going up and going down, and I label what I've got going on. And then I use the formula d equals r times t. Now, we do need to remember that d equals r times t, there are some modified forms of this equation. For example, d over r equals t, or d over t equals r. So when you're dealing with rational expressions, you're more than likely going to have to use one of those modified forms. Why? Well, because it gives you a fraction. All right, so the elevator went to the top. It stayed there for 90 seconds, and then it returned. Well, that 90 seconds actually matters because it wasn't moving, so it has nothing to do with the speed. So the first thing I also noticed was that the total time was 4.5 minutes, and it asked, how high is the tower? So it's really looking for the distance. All right, so I don't know what the distance is. So going up, I don't know the distance. I do know the rate was 4 meters a second, so 4. I know that the distance going down would be exactly the same, and I know that the rate was 5 meters a second. But now I've got to look at the time. Well, the first thing I noticed is that the 90 is in seconds and the 4.5 is in minutes, so I need to convert them to the same unit. And since this question was in meters per second, I decided to turn 4.5 minutes into seconds. So I did 4.5 times 60, which gave me 270 seconds. Okay, so I did 4.5 times 60, which gave me 270 seconds. So the whole time the person was away was 270 seconds. However, I have to subtract 90 from that. Why? Well, because they stopped for 90 seconds. So that tells me that the trip took a total of 180 seconds. Now, this is not the only way to do it. This is just the way I was looking at this problem. Again, that's what I love about math. There's multiple ways to handle problems. All right, so the total time up and back was 180 seconds. So if I say that this was time t, well, then the other one would have to be 180 minus t. And that's the hard part, realizing that you have to consider the fact that the whole was 180. And so I think of it like a segment. If the whole segment was 180, we'll say a length, okay? And I told you that this segment right here was, 20. Well, then the other segment would be 180 minus 20 and would give me 160. Well, in this case, I'm saying that other little segment is t. So then this other little segment would have to be 180 minus t, following the same process. All right, now I'm ready to write my equations. Okay, so d equals 4t. So d over 4 equals t. I used the modified equation, okay? Then the other equation would be d over 5 equals 180 minus t. All right, so I realized that, that if the total time was 180, then d over 5 and d over 4 actually have to equal 180, right? So I did d over 5 equals 180. I substituted d over 4 in for t, so minus d over 4. And then I decided to actually get the d's on one side. So I brought the d over 5 plus d over 4 equals 180. Now, some teachers might not do it like that. Some might say, okay, the two times together and just jump right to this. That's fine. I was just thinking about showing you a way to use substitution here if you have two variables. because these really are one variable equations. Okay, so then I'm going to clear the fractions, because to solve, we want to clear. We never want to deal with fractions if we don't have to. So I'm going to multiply the entire equation by 20. If I do that, the fractions get cleared. So 5 goes into 20 4 times, so 4d, plus 4 goes into 20 5 times, so plus 5d, equals 180 times 20, which is 3,600. Okay, so 9d equals 3,600, and then we're going to divide by 9 on both sides, which gives us 400. So that tells me d is 400, and it asked for the height of the tower. I don't have to do anything else. The height of the tower would be 400 meters. All right, hopefully that helped you just a little bit. Have a great day.